people in the NFL often talk about stacking good decisions, and good things happen when you stack good decisions. Well, when you stack bad decisions, bad things happen. There's a lot of bad decisions, and what I just mentioned.
Football 24/7 with NFL insider John McMullen. It's coordinator day today, the final day, the final look, the final conversation before everybody turns the page and they look ahead to the upcoming opponent back on the road, the Denver Broncos. Wait, Philadelphia Eagles. We'll begin our conversation about Denver tomorrow night. Right now, we'll ask John McMullen to tell me everything he was going to talk to Jody Mack about this morning on Birds 365 that nobody actually got a chance to hear. And it was going to be some great convo as Jody Mack returning from a 4-day hiatus down to the Sunshine State. And the first time Mack and Mack were going to be back, and it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I was looking forward to it today. So maybe the Xfinity gods were protecting Jonathon Gannon today because, a lot of fans accused me of protecting Jonathon Gannon. I can assure you it wasn't going to happen this morning. But now we get to do it at night, and hopefully Jody and I will get back together on Thursday. I have COVID testing tomorrow, so I'll stop in at the top of the show. But yeah, sometimes you're at the mercy of tech problems, and you got to get 1% better, Krausey. 1% better every day.
That's what we try and do, and continue to bring
Maybe
good
Xfinity should try and do that.
Yeah,
I don't want
to go. Listen, at first I thought it was an issue on this end. And then Xander said, no, it's not on this end. Johnny Mack has a problem. Then Jody Mack has a problem. Yeah. And then what was later discovered is that it was a lot bigger than just Jody Mack, Johnny Mack, and Xander Kraus. It was the Delaware Valley, the region, and a lot of states that ended up with that. But anyway, I digress. Coordinator day today, Johnny Mack. Conversation. What's the order down at you show up for coordinator day in terms of who speaks first? How does it go? Is it one right after another? What's the lineup?
The lineup is typically Michael Clay leading off, Shane Steichen batting second, and Jonathon Gannon going last, as you can imagine, as the Sinatra of the coordinator day acts. The opening acts are done, and then it gets to the defensive coordinator. Occasionally that'll change, but on a normal week, and we've gotten into that normal part of the schedule, Sunday games, no short weeks, nothing of that nature. It's typically Michael goes first, Shane Steichen, then Jonathon Gannon.
I do want to ask you about your thoughts on Michael Clay, and I don't know whether or not I don't know whether he ever gets asked about this or not, but we do now have a body of work to look at. And the one thing that has been, unusual to say the least has been, in my opinion, the inconsistency of whether it's Jalen Reagor or Quez or whoever's back on the return. It just seems like they're not quite sure what to do. Now, that may not even be accurate. I don't know. That's what I see. I don't even know if it's ever talked about or addressed. Do you see that, or am I just representing what I see?
That was most of Michael Clay's press conference today was about the kick returns, because And by the way, I mean, I wrote about this, as a matter of fact, for Sports Illustrated today, and the fact that the Eagles' kickoff returns have generally not been good. Now, it's the modern NFL. They changed the rules. It's not that important. They returned 15 kicks, to give you an example, in 9 games. That's it. Back in the old days before they shifted the rules, because it's such a dangerous play from a safety standpoint. Now it's, more often than not, it's 10 seconds to the touchback and you start at the 25-yard line. And generally, the Eagles should do that. I mean, if the ball is in the end zone, even a yard, they should just take a knee and take it at the 25-yard line. They don't have a kick returner capable of bringing it out and making a big splash. I always bring up poor Darrell Patterson because he's probably the best in the NFL at doing it, has been a very long time, has tied the NFL record for kickoff returns. That guy can take it 9 yards deep and take it to the house at any time. There are very few kickoff returners like that. Most special teams coordinators will tell you, as I said, just take the knee and take the 25-yard line because that's better than what you're going to do. You saw John Hightower, who got elevated last week from the practice squad, get one opportunity. He took it about 2 yards deep, and he got out to the 15-yard line. That's just not a good decision. Quez Watkins, it's interesting. Quez has plenty of speed, as we know, but he doesn't have that lower body strength. He doesn't have that big lower body. If you think about the great kickoff returns, what you have to do, you have to have that speed, but you got to be able to break that first tackle. You got to be able to break through. You got to have that tremendous lower body strength. And I bring up Patterson again. That's what he has. And then he's off to the races. So Quez can't break that first tackle. The Eagles' best kickoff returner, their most successful kickoff returner, has been Jalen Reagor. But again, then you have some problems with sometimes he doesn't make the right decision. Should he take it out? Should he take the 25? If I'm Michael Clay, I tell them to put their feet on the goal line, and if it's over their head, take the 25. They don't have a good kick returner, bottom line.
I know we didn't get an opportunity to apply the thought process to returning a punt because the Chargers didn't punt the football on Sunday. But that's the other area where, and I think for the most part, it was Jalen Reagor, who's always been back there. And boy, does he look he looks uncertain on punt returns for sure, for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's part of the issue. I think Jalen has more of that lower body strength I was talking about as a kick returner. So he can break that first tackle. And he had a 44-yard return, I think, in Carolina. That was by far the Eagles' best kickoff return this year. And maybe that's his way to contribute because he's not contributing as a wide receiver. Lord knows that. So, maybe he can get some confidence. But you're right, as a punt returner, it's a lot different than kickoff returns. I think there's a lot of kickoff returns who aren't punt returners and vice versa. There's a lot of punt returners that aren't kickoff returners. Jalen has been doing both. And I agree with you. I don't think he always makes the best decisions when it comes to punt returns. I think as a kickoff returner, he's fine. As a punt returner, he's probably back there because you don't have anybody better, to be honest.
Let's transition out of that conversation into since Shane Steichen is number 2 in the hole on coordinator day, we'll talk about the offense. Certainly, at least from an offensive standpoint, coming out of the game on Sunday, the offense was, would you say, competitive in the guts of the game, controlled certain elements while they were on the field, did enough to compete, and found themselves in a tie football game with 6 minutes left. So I don't know. Shane must feel. Did they feel pretty good about it? Did Shane feel okay about the offense on
Well,
Sunday?
Shane's never going to give you anything. I've said that in the past. Shane is Mr. Coach speak. If we were talking about the Eagles coaching staff, he's the guy who's just going to revert to the cliches. Really nice guy, but he's not going to give you much information. But yeah, I think as a whole, more so from Nick Sirianni, I think they were fine with the offensive performance, understanding what the plan was, and the plan was to run the football against the 32nd ranked defense against the run in the NFL. That's the Chargers, and they ran it effectively. Look, they didn't throw the ball a lot. There wasn't a lot of volume. We talked about the missed throws early in the game to Dallas Goedert, later to Devontae Smith. Both could have been touchdown passes. You got to hit those. Shane did mention that. And Jalen Hurts mentioned that, so he understands it. But if you go to the fourth quarter down 24-17, and I've said this pretty consistently, and I hope people are listening again, because I'm going to say it again. In my mind, that was the best drive of the season, of the entire season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And a lot of that had to do with the playmaking ability of Jalen Hurts. We are where we are. We're the same place we were in week one, to be honest. And, you might consider that a problem, or you might consider it a solution. The Eagles have a very unique quarterback who can make plays in different ways, and he's not consistent throwing the football. It's where we were in week one. It's where we are entering week 10.
John, does Shane Steichen work one-on-one with Jalen at practice? Does he have influence over Jalen's mechanics? Does he have influence over what Jalen is evaluating in real time when he's looking at, when he comes off the field and he's looking at the tablet? Does Shane have conversations with him about that?
Yeah, not so much the mechanics part of it. That's the position coach. That's Brian Johnson, who works with that stuff with the quarterbacks. He runs the offensive meetings, Shane Steichen, much as Nick Sirianni did for Frank Reich in Indianapolis. That's how they've set things up. Kevin Patullo, by the way, is a big part of that as well, the passing game coordinator. So, yeah, I mean, look, this offense is about Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, and Kevin Patullo. Those are the guys who are putting together this offense on a weekly basis. So they all have a big input on Jalen Hurts when it comes to running this particular offense. As far as in the trenches, so to speak, when you're talking about individual work, when you're talking about fundamentals, when you're talking about mechanics, that's Brian Johnson. That's the quarterback's coach.
But is it, and I guess where I'm trying to get to is somebody has to help develop Jalen Hurts. He's not going to roll into the National Football League as a second-round pick after he played 55 games or whatever he did at a high level at Alabama and Oklahoma, and then come into the NFL without getting some help with the development of the position. And part of that growth will allow him to not waste opportunities. That's what I'm trying to get to. Is that there, or Is this coaching staff able to develop Jalen Hurts and make him a better quarterback, or are we just relying on Jalen to get better after each week of experience?
No, I mean, player development is a big part of the NFL in every city, not just Philadelphia. I say this constantly. I think too many fans think you draft a player and that's the player and that's it. That's the start, and it could be anything. It could be the quarterback, could be a running back, defensive tackle, defensive end. Everybody's got to be developed, and player development is a big part of this league. You see it all across when it comes to quarterbacks. You see it. Look at the top draft picks. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, starting out number 1. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, on and on. Justin Fields, you got to see last night. All these teams have to develop these young quarterbacks. The Eagles are in that same category. And yeah, I mean, everybody has a hand in that. Brian Johnson has a hand in that. Kevin Patullo does. Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni. I mean, they're all working to develop Jalen Hurts and to make him the best potential quarterback he could be. The questions are, the piece of clay isn't as talented as the piece of clay in Jacksonville, from a trait standpoint, to use an example. But it doesn't mean you can't have success. And the Eagles, man, that's what they do every day, trying to get Jalen Hurts up to speed, trying to get Jalen Hurts up to being a high-level NFL quarterback. The bigger question we've been asking all throughout the season is, what is the evaluation? Last 2 weeks, which the Eagles have had success, they've scaled things back pretty dramatically. Now, is that because they're facing 2 consecutive opponents in Detroit and the Chargers who can't stop the run? Could be just as simple as that. They're taking advantage of what those 2 teams do poorly. If it's more than that, like that ends in Denver. I mean, Denver's not a great team, but they have a great defensive coach in Vic Fangio. And I was on locally in South Jersey with our buddy Rich Q, and I said, look, if there is any coach, defensive coach, you could give me to make things difficult for a young quarterback, any young quarterback, from Trevor Lawrence on down, it's Vic Fangio. He's going to make it really, really, really difficult for young quarterbacks. Always has, always will. They're not terrible against the run. So you're going to have to go about things in a different way this week. And I think it's going to tell you a lot about where the Eagles stand with Jalen Hurts. Did they scale back things to help Jalen Hurts, or did they scale back things because of the opponents, the last 2 opponents? I think we're going to see that this week.
Good stuff. Look forward to that Sunday at 4:05, Football 24/7 with NFL insider John McMullen, presented as always by Stateside Vodka. Our great friends at Stateside are still providing 15% off of the Stateside Vodka soda. We sold out of all the 1-liter bottles. Now let's sell out of the Stateside Vodka soda. Get 15% by using that keyword JAKIB, statesidevodka.com. I guess we'll spend the remaining time that we have on Coordinator Day talking about Jonathon Gannon. Boy, I wish I could just snap and listen to the press conference. John, how was it? Cordial. Was the Philadelphia media cordial to the defensive coordinator today as he came to the podium?
Yeah, I think I think we're always cordial.
Tough. I should say tough. Cordial
Yeah, I
is
mean,
correct.
no,
Cordial is correct. I should say
he,
tough.
he got asked every question he should be asked, starting with the obvious, the completion percentage again, over 80% for Justin Herbert, fifth time in 9 games. Really good quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Derek Carr, and now Justin Herbert. So it's not like they're doing it against Manny, Bo, and Jack. Um, Different era of football, easier to complete passes than ever before. All that context should be entered into the equation. But the bottom line is in the previous 70 years, Krausey, it happened 6 times. Completion percentages of over 80% or more. When you're talking about 25 throws in a game, it's happened 5 times in 9 games. So even with the stipulation that what I said, it's easier to throw the football than ever before in the NFL. It's still an unacceptable number. Now, a lot of it is going to be, corrected just by the opponents coming up on the schedule, not necessarily this week. Teddy Bridgewater is Denver's quarterback. He's completing 70% of his passes anyway. There's a perfect example. I mean, yeah. Teddy Bridgewater's completing 70% of his passes. He does a lot of checkdowns, a lot of short stuff. So it might not show up this week, but I do think people have already seen it. You saw it against Sam Darnold. You saw it against Jared Goff. Look, they're capable of doing some things against lesser quarterbacks, and lesser quarterbacks are coming up, whether it's going to be Daniel Jones with the Giants or, whoever's going to start for the Saints. It's probably going to be Trevor Siemian. Who's ever going to start for the Jets? It's probably going to be Mike White. Who knows when they get to that point? But it's not Justin Herbert. It's certainly not Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. So a lot of that is going to be self-correcting. What's not going to be self-correcting is the personnel on this team. And I looked directly at the defensive line because, look, the back seven's not supposed to be that good other than Darius Slay. When your best linebacker, and I love him, and I think he's proven a lot over the past 2 weeks, and he might be better than people think, but TJ Edwards is probably not the best linebacker on 31 other teams in the NFL. I mean, that's how bad the Eagles linebacker situation is. Safeties are not much better. Their best safety this year has been Marcus Epps. Again, I like Epsy as a person. I think he's better than people think he is. But I don't know too many NFL teams where Marcus Epps would be the best safety. You're going to see 2 safeties this week. Justin Simmons is one of the best safeties in football in Denver. Kareem Jackson's more of a veteran guy. There's some serious personnel deficiencies on that side of the football in Philadelphia. The defensive line is not supposed to be one of those. The defensive line does not have personnel deficiencies, but those guys aren't playing well. And I mean, every single one of them is playing to a level less than what was expected of them, including Javon Hargrave. Now, Javon Hargrave played great for the first month, but ever since then, hasn't played near the level that you expect him to play. Not over that first month when he was one of the best defensive tackles in football. What you expected him just coming in as a second-year player in Philadelphia, and you said, he's a pretty good player. Hasn't played like it over the past 4 or 5 weeks. And he's the best. Fletcher Cox has taken plenty of hits. It's not playing like Fletcher Cox. Josh Sweat, we talked about over the summer, looked like he was ready to take a big step forward. Hasn't taken that big step forward. Derek Barnett might be the only more unpopular guy in Philadelphia right now than Jonathon Gannon. Continue to make mental mistakes, no production. And then you talk about the backups, the rookies, Milton Williams, Marlon Tuipulotu, and Teron Jackson. They're playing like rookies. Hassan Ridgway's playing like a backup. It's a disappointing group. It's supposed to be the strength of this team. It's been anything but.
John, if the back seven was better, meaning different names that made up the back seven, better players, would the defensive line be playing any different than they are right now?
Well, you're always better. I mean, it's a blend, coverage, rush. JG will say that every week. Rush coverage. It's always a blend. So if you have better players up front, your secondary is going to be better. If you have better players in the secondary, your front's going to be better. Look, if they had Darius Leonard playing linebacker, when JG was with him in Indianapolis, if they had Harrison Smith playing safety, JG was with him in Minnesota.
If they had him with Fletcher Cox, are they going to get to the quarterback? Are they
Fletcher Cox is going to look better with those players.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to look better with those players. I mean, and those players are going to be helped, by great defensive linemen and vice versa. But I mean, look, like I said, I mean, Darius Leonard or TJ Edwards, that's not an insult to TJ Edwards. One guy's an all-pro level player. One guy's an undrafted free agent overachieving. Harrison Smith is an all-pro player. Ironically, Marcus Epps was drafted by Minnesota, was a backup there, 6th-round pick, picked up on waivers by the Eagles a couple years ago. He'll tell you, he's told me many times how good Harrison Smith is. I mean, well, good players are good players. You're going to see one of them in Denver, and Justin Simmons might be one of the few safeties in football who can call himself a peer to a guy like Harrison Smith. Those guys are different. They're different players. They make a difference on the field.
Well, it sure is hard for the general manager to build and construct a team on both sides of the football, but perhaps some of that draft capital should be utilized on the defensive side of the football. I'm not talking about an edge rusher.
Well, they haven't drafted a first-round pick on the defensive side since Derek Barnett. If you think about, you go back to before Derek Barnett, who was 2017, it was Marcus Smith, who was 2014, and obviously that didn't work out. Before Marcus Smith, it was Fletcher Cox way back in 2012. So this team hasn't used a lot of first-round picks on the defensive side of the football. Now, they have drafted guys in premium rounds. They tried to fix the cornerback issues with Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas. They got it wrong. They drafted Davion Taylor in the 3rd round, but that's a very raw player. You go back to Jordan Hicks, who was a good 3rd-round pick, but they let him walk. Deemed too expensive, too injury prone, and he's still playing well in Arizona. So, people in the NFL often talk about stacking good decisions. And good things happen when you stack good decisions. Well, when you stack bad decisions, bad things happen. There's a lot of bad decisions and what I just mentioned.
And on that note, it's a perfect way to end Football 24/7 with NFL insider John McMullen here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Back to work tomorrow. Johnny Mac will be down in South Philadelphia. He will make an appearance on Birds 365. Should be Jody Mac. And I guess Jeff Kerr will be in the hot seat tomorrow, along with John McMullen. And then we'll see you back here tomorrow night. We'll see you on Birds 365 for the reunion with Jody Mac. Mac and Mac for 2 hours.
We had about 20 minutes.
Miss it. We miss it, Johnny Mac.
You had about 20 minutes of it. It was getting going, too. It was getting going.
Yeah.
And then
so bang, out of nowhere. We look forward to that. Great stuff, Johnny Mac. Appreciate it, my friend. And we'll talk with you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Krausey.
All right. Good stuff from John McMullen. Thank everybody for, and don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. See you next time, everybody.